fundamentals would be different. Job creation, was touted, building factories, one district, one factory, popular slogan. I mean, these three key platforms they ran on, in 2016. What do we get? Obviously, people's expectation absolutely through the roof. I perhaps was a believer because I had always said that the president, was one of the two Democrats standing at a time with KB Asante. I believed that they were, sort of the last Democrats, in my own, consideration of who a Democrat is, etc. Now, fast forward, you have, government telling us that yes, the taxation to production couldn't happen, and so we have to actually have more taxes. A government that was actually complaining about, plenty taxes now is actually adding more taxes. The popular phrase "yetisikaso ekomdien," as the lady actually pointed out, actually rang through everybody's mind, and unfortunately, we're no longer yetisikaso again. I mean, corruption that had been so-called endemic in our system, that one of the platforms, fundamental platform that the government, the president specifically, was known for, now is demanding evidences. Even when the evidences had been passed down, president says he hadn't actually seen it. I mean, this is ridiculous. I don't actually understand why anyone would think that rational human beings in this country will keep quiet on such happenings. And my worry is that you have young people that we had always complained that are not engaged in the political process, and that is worrying. Now they're engaging in the political process, and people are trying to shut them down. Now, when you do that, what do you gain? You get apathy, you get disillusion, and then you get an implosion in the end. I can't really understand why the political class, especially with the MPP, because they are in government, and I think anyone who actually push the conversation that why now, I think is complete out of mind. I mean, you are in government. When the former administration, the former regime was in government, we were speaking about it. And it doesn't matter who was speaking, people were complaining. And people actually went to the street. In your term, people should keep quiet. Why? Because you're a golden child? I don't think that is actually acceptable. Whoever advances that argument is, I'm afraid, not a rational human being.
So, Doc,
we are supposed to speak.
Doc, in those, I mean, listening to a lot of those who make this argument, they suggest that the context is different. Different in the sense that the government is now coming on the back of recovering from COVID. And the impact of COVID, some would say, have been so dire for a number of countries.
That's not starter. Look, that's not starter. Okay. Look, COVID, right?
Yeah.
World Bank had given the government how much money? IMF has given the government how much money?
It was never enough. Right. It was never enough. They still had to borrow some more money.
Private firms contributed to the government funds on COVID.
Again, was still not enough.
In COVID, some countries are actually growing. Cote d'Ivoire, there are statistics that shows that even Ivory Coast, a war-torn country that has been ravaged by war, they are performing much better. We shouldn't actually go there with some of this flimsy argument.
But those may be the exceptions.
People are
because countries the world over are struggling. Generally, all countries are struggling. There are exceptions, though, and I agree with you.
No. Let me tell you something.
Right.
Let me tell you something. Every government faces a crisis in one way or the other. Mohammed's government actually faced Ebola.
Yeah,
well, you could argue that we didn't get to this place. Why? Perhaps it was a good management. That's why it didn't get here. Perhaps they were lucky. But of course, there was Ebola. Again, there was a crisis. One of the hard-hit crises that we have ever seen in this country. Dumsa, it's a crisis. What do you want to call a crisis? Dumsa is one of my dad's company actually collapsed. I'm telling you. I am a direct beneficiary, let me put it that way, direct beneficiary of Dumsa because it collapsed my dad's company. And I was furious. I spoke about it. You want to call Dumsa not a crisis? But COVID is a crisis. What are you telling me? We shouldn't even go there. Look, people are struggling in this country. We are not keeping quiet because there's a golden child on the seat. No, we have to speak. This country belongs to all of us. Why shouldn't we talk about an MPP government? Why? Because what? They are what? We shouldn't actually advance those arguments. Look here, the government should solve it. They have crisis. One of the things in government is that you would face crisis. I mean, what we call externalities, is every government faces that. When it gets to you, the reality gets to you, you have to answer it. You couldn't actually, prefer what do you call excuses. It's not possible. You can't do it. And the people won't listen because everyone faces crisis in their lives. People are facing crisis in their own lives. And you're a government, you're facing crisis, you've got to solve it.
Okay. All right.
So if you have a family and then there's crisis, are you going to tell your child that because there's crisis, you're not going to pay the school fees?
You will pay, but you may have to now go borrow money.
I'm sorry.
So yeah, I'm happy you're articulating all of these points, and there are legitimate concerns you are raising.
In the system. Sorry to say, there are so many. The president says no. People have actually been okay. Forget about the economic issues. What about Galamsey? What about the rivers that are actually getting messed up? What about people's farms that are being getting messed up? Forget about those capital-intensive infrastructure things that you have to do. Yes, we know you've got to have money to fix the roads. What about the water bodies that people are destroying? What about that?
I see.
So please don't advance.
So Doc,
we shouldn't advance.
So there's this thing. So as you're well aware of, there are always short-term measures, mid-term, and then long-term measures of dealing with some of these challenges. Now, as I read one of the briefs about all of these interventions that the government put in place, so for issues for things such as 1D, 1F, one district, one warehouse, one village, one dam, blah, 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 those were mid to long-term projects. At least that is the argument they have made to us. Now, in the short term...
Did they tell you when they were on campaign trail talking about 1D, 1F?
Well, they never specified whether it was going to be short term or mid term or long term. But the point is, investments will have to be made now for all of us to benefit from them in the next few years or in the next several years. No, that is understandable.
That is an elite conversation. That's an elite conversation you're having.
So you are saying we need to focus on the bread and butter issues now.
No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that whatever it's a long-term, short-term, medium-term, they have to fix it. Now, when you are given the power to rule, you have 4 years. All right? Now, you do not have 8 years.
Yeah.
The Constitution gives you 4 years. Now, in that 4 years, which of your policy is short-term and short-term within a span of how many years?
Yeah.
Which of them is a long-term and long-term within a span of how many years? So you have to be, look, the Galamsey hadn't been solved, whether it was a long-term or short-term, it never solved. All right? The 1D, 1F never solved, whether it was a long-term or short-term, never solved. The, the free SHS is in shambles. So what are you talking about? So where is the long-term, where is the short-term? Okay. And which of them has been solved? Okay. Show me the short-term that has been solved. Okay.
So
show me the long-term or medium-term.
From one doctor to the other. Let me now go to Richard Asante-Yeboah. Richard, again, congratulations on your doctorate degree now. Richard Asante-Yeboah is the Deputy Communications Director for the Governing New Patriotic Party. He's joining us also. Richard, you have a lot to answer because clearly people are not happy. Yesterday, I was furious, I kid you not, because my lights were off and it was terrible for me. I couldn't do anything. I had so much work I had to do, but I couldn't. I was just there, hoping and praying that the lights would come on. I woke up around 1 a.m. and the lights had just been turned on, around 1 a.m. And so when people look at some of these things and tell you that, listen, this government, you have to sit up and fix some of these problems because it's affecting everybody. It's affecting lives and property. People are genuinely struggling. I drove to the office yesterday and I got to was it a Total filling station? And I could see 6 cedi, was it 15 pesos or 6 cedi, 17 pesos per gallon of fuel? I think, no, per liter, actually. 6 cedi, 17 pesos. And so, clearly, people are struggling. And you were the same ones who told us that people have lost their jobs, some people have had their salaries cut and the like, and so government is helping them. And within 5 months, all that help dissipates and you are taxing us some more. Richard, why? What's wrong? Have Ghanaians erred in any way?
I think that we can look at these issues holistically and address them, and also look at those that seem to have political undertones, that seem to push a particular
whether we like it or not, they all have political undertones. So you just deal with the issues for us.
If you allow me,
sure. Go ahead.
Yeah. And all these issues ought to be addressed. And I mean, the point is that as a country, I mean, we are in a participatory democracy. So at every point in time, you do expect citizens not to act as statistics, but also be able to voice out on issues that they think that they have concerns about. And it is the duty of government to face issues and challenges that confront the country. But there are certain situations where you require the all hands on deck approach to deal with those matters. There are matters that have to be dealt with by lecturers, that ought to be dealt with by doctors, that ought to be handled by truck drivers. Every single person within this country has a responsibility to make sure that we build a formidable country, a country that people can come from.
Richard, sorry, I have to cut you here, Richard. But I think you are just giving us grammar.
No, don't worry. I mean, don't worry. I'm dealing with the issues.
No, but
I'm dealing with the issues. But if you allow me,
okay,
I'm listening to quite a lot of things from whatever was said earlier to now. So if you allow me,
okay,
it'll be very grateful for me to deal with some of the issues.
All right.
I know I've had discussion of it's bad, it's chaotic, the economy in shambles, mismanagement, and all kinds of things. I tell you, before COVID, Ghana was one of the leading countries in terms of growth across the world.
Oh no, you see, as for the historical facts, we are aware of them. So let's deal with the issues happening now.
So which ones are the issues happening now? If we do not look at what has brought us to where we are now,
if you say this, then every other person can say during the Nkrumah era there was this, during Mohammed's era there was this.
If you allow me,
yeah.
Because you have not actually allowed me to sort of even make it.
No, I am, but I just need you to be on track because it seems you are sidestepping the conversation.
I'm not sure I've gone off track, my brother, if you allow me.
Okay, continue.
I'm not sure I've gone off track. I mean, we are looking at situation within the country, and you are being given what it is that has happened and what is the way forward, and what is being done. So if you allow me, that will be very helpful.
Go ahead.
I mean, it's better that way. I think that as a country, like you described the situation of your electricity challenges. And we all know the fact that it is not that we do have a problem as a country and as such the issue with generational capacity, or the issue has to do with government not being able to acquire full power the various plans that we do have. That's not the situation. The difficulty that we are facing is because government has made it a point to replace old transformers and also old lines that
were giving my house is nowhere near those lines. When the list came
out,
How
will you know?
But there was a communication from GRIDCO and ECG.
How will you know?
But Richard. No, let's not toe that line because the point is there was communication from GRIDCO and the ECG, and they clearly spelled out the areas that were going to be affected. Such people had advance notice to plan, and so for me, if clearly I know that I'm not part of that list and I do not make such provisions.
But have you made it a point to find out from ECG? Or,
yes, I have.
How come your area went up?
I have tried finding out.
So remember that the communication is not only about your area or where you reside. I'm talking about the general challenges that people are facing.
But you are making reference to me raising an issue about electricity challenges.
My brother, let's not narrow it down to your personal circumstance and as an individual, where maybe the situation will vary.
Richard, I'm also
we know that there are issues with the fact that there's a timetable out where certain parts of the country occasionally receive do go through some moments of doom, so the lights go up here and there. But there are also other issues that will come in as and when because of other challenges that I might not know. Because I do not know where you live and I do not know how come your particular house there was a challenge with your electricity. That could be something that you need to find out and check. So I'm giving you an issue, answers to questions that people continuously ask as to how come we are facing these challenges. And I'm telling you that it is not because of these sort of issues that you are raising, but it has to do with the fact that government is fixing problems, and those problems, while facing them, certain areas have to go off so you can solve the issue. Now let's go to other things that people spoke about. that the free education is in shambles. I mean, for the life of me, I find it difficult to understand this, and I appreciate that. What is the basis for that sort of analysis? That free education is in shambles. What is making him think that way? I mean, Dr. Kobe, I've known over a period, but I don't think that it is tough for anybody to describe free education to be in shambles.
So you do not admit the fact that there are issues with the free SHS policy as
there
it's
will be
currently
issues. Let me tell you.
No, so if he suggests that there are issues with it, what's wrong with that?
No, that's
Is it not a fair assessment of what is happening?
No, I'm saying that it is not the same as describing it to be the issue. There will be challenges with every issue. University of Ghana, you have challenges, some few issues here and there. Your safety will have difficulties in one or two things, but you cannot describe it to be in shambles. Now, if you go to America, the education
you just had reopening.
If you go to Switzerland, if you go to UK, they continuously improve whatever system they do have over there. But you cannot describe that to mean that.
Richard, hold on briefly. Richard, sorry, hold on. Richard, hold on. Briefly. Dr. Kobe Mensah wants to make an intervention, and I think it's a very valid intervention he wants to make because in fact, I almost prompted you, but let me hear it from him though. Doc, go ahead. You can ask the question.
Richard, I'm saying that when you listen to or when you check the word shambles, what does that mean? You had the first time in this country, SS students going to school and being asked to return. Reopening was postponed almost 3 times. Yeah. You have your Minister of Education sitting on TV and saying, if you want to pay, you can pay. That's a policy contradiction. You have schools actually showing that they don't have some critical, facilities or some critical material that they need to actually carry on studying. Now, you have textbooks that are not, present in schools. How would you actually call such a situation? So I'm not actually using shambles lightly because I feel that I'm actually want to describe the government in that order. No, that's not what I'm saying. But it is true that there are quite a lot of uncertainties with the free education as we speak right now.
Richard, so actually that example he made, I did hear a number of people suggest that it gave the impression as though governments did not even know what it was about because the students don't even know when they're supposed to go home. You just be in school and they tell you, listen, you are going home on Thursday, and then you go home. Yeah.
I do not want to side with him in that description.
That's fine.
And that point I want to be made. I situate myself with indicating that there are challenges, and those challenges need to be looked at and addressed. Whatever system that you do have in any part of the world, there will be occasional challenges.
Felicity keeps giggling. I don't know if Felicity, you have a few questions, but you please take note of them.
You have not allowed me to address some of the points you raised.
Sorry.
Students being asked to resume school, they get to the school, and on that day that they get back to school, they're told that, well, actually, it's been postponed. This is more than a challenge. Okay. This is not a challenge. How do you not know when the school children are supposed to resume school? And let parents, as kids who live in Tamale, who go to school in Accra, travel with sometimes the last money that their parents have to get to Accra, to get to the school, only to be told that, oh, actually, your resumption date has been postponed.
Okay.
And then to talk about it as a minor challenge, that is not a minor challenge. That is indicative of an educational system that is failing. You can, to the point, you don't even know something as basic as when are the kids getting back to school. You couldn't figure out the academic calendar. Our academic calendar is not supposed to be planned even a year. Of course, COVID brought in a lot of things, but that even gave you more time to plan. Because if the kids were not in school, it gives you more time to plan when you want them to resume studies. And then they get back to school, and the day they get back to school, you tell them, oh, actually, you need to go back home for another month. And you don't think this is shambolic?
Okay.
If it was in a proper country, somebody's head would have rolled just for that decision. How do you have parents across the country send their kids to school only to be told, well, actually, we got it wrong, we're going to need another month. Another month to do what?
Let's hear Dr. Santi Yeboah as he articulates his points. It appears we've interjected him a number of times. He's not been able to flow as much as he's supposed to. So, Doc, please go ahead. Let's hear you now, sir.
I'm grateful to you for realizing that point. Okay, I think when I hear words like this is a proper school, a proper country, this is a proper country, for the life of me, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? Ghana is not a proper country. What country are you talking about? I mean, we can look at all those things and just brush them aside and focus on the real issues. The point is that I'm not sure anybody or any parent will be excited about the fact that kids are supposed to go to school, and because of one or two challenges, the school authorities realizing that if they allow them in, they are not really entirely ready to receive them, and there are various things that need to be put in place, including things that could help them prevent the spread of COVID and all this. And the Ghana Education Service listening to them, and then further rescheduling the kids and all that. Nobody was happy about that. But all those things have been resolved. It tells you that something is working.
Okay.
I mean, we are not looking at a situation where for like 5 years or so, there was a total challenge in our power supply, where my brother Kobe referred to the fact that his father's company has to collapse because of that. We are not seeing that. We are seeing a country where, as we speak, people are going to school and they are not paying school fees. That is a country that is working. It is working, and Ghanaians are enjoying that. We are seeing a country where we are building factories across the length and breadth of the country. I mean, people are getting jobs as a result of that. The economy is growing because of that. Even as we speak, UK, that I'm sure my sister would have loved to refer to as a better country, is having a recession in its economy because of what? COVID. Is Ghana going through that? COVID has had a serious impact on every major economy in the world. Ghana is among some of the few countries that we are seeing proper growth as we speak now. It tells you that something better is being done. At one point in time, we are being told that government should not accumulate debt and build debt for the future generations to come and pay. Then the one government looked at other avenues to try and raise funds in terms of looking at some few revenues here and there, particularly when we know that at every point in time, this government has been committed in trying to do things that will reduce the burden on Ghanaians, including removing taxes, scrapping taxes, reducing taxes, providing other incentives to assist the various individuals within the sectors of the economy.
And in recent time, adding more taxes and increasing existing taxes. Let's add
and all those things. If government is doing all these things to cushion us, and instead of because of COVID, revenues are not coming in as we expected. Because of COVID, government has to now take on additional and unknown areas that we never thought that government needed to commit money to. Government has never thought of going to provide nose masks for school kids and PPEs. Government never thought in our history or any government history thought that a time will come that there will be the need for the government to provide nose masks for every single child going to school. That PPEs ought to be provided. That doctors are going to be given 50% additional salary, including what they are receiving, and also they are not going to be exempted from taxes. It is in the life of this country, there has not been a point in time when duties have been reduced by 50%. When importation of car, you have it being reduced, duties on it being reduced by 30%. When various tax incentives are being given to people within the country, I think government is doing a lot. We do believe that as a president, Nana Akufo-Addo, I think he said a couple of times, and as NPP continues to say, we are here to serve the people. And our mandate is to solve the issues and challenges that confront us. But there are some that we need to look at and at least be fair to the fact. You cannot sit anywhere and say that, as you speak, Ghana things are not performing better. Ghana is not doing well. What is the basis? Because taxes have been increased, or some one or two taxes have been brought on board to help generate revenue to deal with some few issues that we have confronted the country. You cannot say those things based on that.
Richard,
because you have to understand that as we speak now, in every facet of our life, this country is performing better than our neighboring country.
Okay.
I know the name of
that's fine. Richard, let me come in now, because I think we've allowed you to speak for about 5 to 6 minutes or so uninterrupted, and so I think the point has been made clear. But let me ask this: what do you say to people who suggest that this posture of yours and that of several other communicators of the government is why we are where we are today? That you seek to belittle every concern that is raised by people and keep touting the several things that may have been done in the past. And so, because there have been good things that have been done in the past, let's forget about all the other things we are experiencing now. What do you say to persons who raise such arguments?
I'm not sure I've done that. I don't know whether somebody has done that.
But I'm not sure. All you have said to us now. Sorry, I'm coming. All you have said to us now is that you cannot fathom why anybody would suggest that the country is not working. And you have given us reasons why you think the country is working. And it is to downplay everything people are saying about the challenges they are going through. The reason for which they feel that the country needs to be fixed and fixed now. That is why I'm asking this question.
I think what I've done so far is to try and...
Unless I'm wrong. Maybe, okay, there are other panelists, so maybe I can find out from them. Dr. Mensah and Felicity.
You have not been allowed me to
answer the question you asked me. No, maybe I'm thinking too much, or maybe I'm.
No. But you allowed me. You ask a question. You ask for the answers. Let me give you the answer.
So you give me the answer, and then I'll take views from our co-panelists as well.
See, I've not downplayed people's sentiments and people's concerns. What I've done is that there are moments I saw that when people are actually trying to overly not being stressed to the facts. When you are not being stressed to the facts, you need to point it out to you. But when there are issues and challenges, remember when Gov't mentioned the issue about school being postponed a couple of times, I said that those issues are not happening in the first place. I mean, there are explanations that GS has provided to some of us. And the point is that nobody thought that such a situation will happen. That happened. But those will not guarantee anybody and give anybody the thing to describe the country to be in shambles or education to be in shambles. And those are my words. And I say that we are ready to listen to people because we are here to care to people. And whatever concern they have, with those that need to be addressed, those that we need to look at them and find solutions to them, the government and the president of the republic is ready to do so. But while they are doing that, I know that there are people who are into various mischief and doing things for political agenda. And whatever I think that they're doing, even whatever good thing that got in the discussion, I've not heard anybody say anything good has been done in this country by this government. So, you get the impression that everything that has been done in this administration is bad. If somebody has indicated that, then you know that people are being fed. Areas where people ought to point out government lapses or some misgivings, they are doing so, and areas where they are frauding, they need to applaud the government, they are doing that. But if all you are realizing is that people have just taken an entrenched stance, and you realize that these things are being done with some political underpinning and another tone.
Okay, so if I understand you correctly, you are saying that persons who are on this agenda are just trying to run down the government or to ridicule the efforts of government in dealing with the existing challenges.
I did not say those who are complaining.
I'm trying to understand what you are trying to communicate to us.
I have not said that those who have issues.
No, that's what I'm asking. I want to know what the communication is to us.
I'm saying that I've not said anywhere that those who have issues that are genuine complaints and they are voicing them out. What they are doing.
So you are saying there are a number of people who have deliberately turned a blind eye to all the good things the government has done for their perhaps selfish interest in promoting a certain political agenda, right?
I'm saying that there are some who have not seen anything good with what this government is doing. And there are some who you look at what they are saying and they are being stressed to the fact on certain basis. Because even all the advanced countries that we know of, there will be issues and people will complain and communicate about.
Okay, all right.
So in this regard, if there are issues, we'll deal with them.
That's
right. When the people are
at this point, I have to take the views of my co-panelists.
Are not constructive, but you want people to be constructive in their criticism.
Okay,
all right. You want criticism that are very constructive.
That's fine.
Not those that seem to be a bit baseless.
That's fine. Felicity, let's hear you. Yes. We'll hear from Felicity and then we'll take some words from
I just want to say, I always can't stand how much our politicians and leadership always constantly need us to pat them on the back and constantly tell them, hey, you're doing a great job. Hey, you're doing a really good job. There's this constant need to be, for their egos to be massaged. Like you came in, you made so many promises. You said we're going to do X, we're going to do Y, we're going to do Z. When you're not delivering and I'm complaining about it, you should tell me, oh, but I delivered A, so just, praise me for A. You want me to, this idea that it's only fair criticism if I praise you for the 2 things you did right while talking about the 8 things you didn't do right. Where did we learn this from? Why do I need to do that? It is your job. You're being paid and we pay them very well to do this job. So if I don't sit here today to praise you, you are going to live because you're being paid very well to do the job that you do. And if I don't feel like the job that you're doing is good enough, I'm going to speak on it. They need to stop feeling that we need to constantly praise them for some of the things, very mediocre things that they do, like constant praise. And the thing is, don't you people have enough sycophants around you anyway who tell you how amazing you are? I think what happens is, because we live in a system where we're constantly, hey, honorable, hey, sir, hey, this, oh, that. So when anyone criticizes them, they're suddenly taken aback because they're used to psychophancy. They're used to people not telling them, the people not speaking truth to power, because a lot of time there's consequence for speaking truth to power. And then sometimes people want to get their knuckle feel, so they're not going to speak truth to power. So anytime you complain, it's like, oh, but why are you not praising me how everybody else has been praising me? And if you don't praise me in that way, then that means that you're doing it with a political agenda in mind. So but my question is, when someone makes a criticism, the only question should be, is it valid? Is it true? It does not matter if the person is an NDC person or they come from a certain political ideology and they're making this criticism. And that is neither here nor there.
Okay, right.
It doesn't cease to be true and valid just because the person saying it comes from a party that does not agree with that isn't your party. Okay. This is how we get we start moving the conversation away from the necessities, and then we start moving into nonsense because, oh, this person's an NDC person, as opposed to, look, if I'm going to a hospital, people go around searching for beds in a hospital. Doesn't matter if you're MPP or NDC. So
the fact of the matter, however, is that whether we like it or not,
seems to be a fact. Simply because of their political backing. No,
not at all.
Let's stop this conversation about this person.
But the fact remains that people oftentimes try to take advantage of the situation to further their own agenda. So that's also factual. So, but thank you for those words. I will have one last question for you before we go. But let me take the views of Dr. Kobe Mensah. Doc, I don't know whether you're part of those who are pushing the NDC agenda or so we've been made to believe. But Doc, let's hear you.
I always say that I have no business, criticizing a position, and I have no business praising a government, because at the end of the day, the reason why we sacked the other government was exactly what we're doing. We expected you to do what we were not happy with the previous government. That's why we sacked them. And then we bring them in. You expect us to keep quiet. Now, let me ask Richard. Richard, so you're saying that you solved Galamsey, and because of COVID, it's come back? You are saying that you solved the river pollution, and because of COVID, it's come back. The pollution has come back. You're saying that you solved you paid the 1 million per 1 million one constituency over the past 4 years. You pay them, and because of COVID, you cannot pay again. Is that what you're saying? You're saying that you have actually delivered on all the promises, and all of a sudden, because of COVID, they have all dissipated. I mean, you tell me which of your promises that you actually told us that you were going to do, you have done it and has been sustained. You tell me, which of them? Because of COVID, you solved the corruption, but because of COVID, it's come back. I mean, we saw quite a lot of corruption issues. We're expecting the president to solve it. And you are telling me that you solved it. You actually took people to court. You actually prosecuted people, but because of COVID, now people are corrupt again. Is that what you're telling me? I mean, I'm sorry, but you're not actually making sense to any of us, because I can tell you that you haven't solved all the platforms that you stood on: economy, anti-corruption, big social intervention. None of these have you actually solved. You haven't. All about grammar. You've been telling us that you've solved it. We can't see it. We cannot feel it. And none of us can touch any of the things that you're talking about, unless you prove to me that I'm wrong. That you have solved all these things that I've given you, and because of COVID, they are back. Tell me.
Okay. Interesting. Interesting comments
there.
So
let me come in.
Just 30 seconds, because we've run out of time, actually. So, Richard, 30 seconds, please. I beg you.
Okay, so I think it's quite unfortunate for my brother Kobe to describe me that I'm not making sense in what I'm saying. You can disagree with me.
I don't think he said that exactly.
That's okay.
You make a point.
I mean, what we need to understand is that
you know me, I will be the last person to be respectful. I didn't say
that you think comforts you. I was so surprised that you did not mention that while government was busily dealing with the issue of Galamsey, the NDC and their team were encouraging people to continue with Galamsey because when their party come into power. And we've seen videos of that high-ranking members of the NDC doing that. We know that this government said we are going to do planting for food and jobs, and we've done that. We said that when we come, we introduce a nursing training allowance and teacher training allowance. That was cancelled by the.
At this point, I think you are rehashing the things you've mentioned previously
to us. I said in the thing we said we'll do, and we have done. Let me give him a good number of them. We said we'll introduce education, people will not pay school fees. And we've done that.
Richard.
I hope you're getting me. We told Ghanaians that when we come, we'll set up factories across the country, 1 district, 1 factory. And we've done that. The good number of factories that have been set up out there.
It's okay. I think the time is up. 30 seconds is up. 30 seconds is up. Felicity, I have one question for you. Let me speak to Felicity.
Go on.
Felicity, now the police is suggesting that because of the COVID protocols in place, you may not necessarily be able to go out and demonstrate as you wish to do on Mother's Day, May 9. What is the way forward? Are you suggesting that you're going to defy them?
We're still going to be engaging the police on that. So, just because they've said it doesn't mean that we're still engaging them. Our lawyers are still engaging them.
No,
so
but you are
that's what I'm going to say on that
of the third wave elsewhere and the risk such a gathering may pose to not just yourselves but all of us.
Because the thing, my only thing that I'm going to say is that we didn't care about COVID when people were organizing political rallies across the country. I didn't see the police swooping to stop people.
You cannot use the sins of the past to justify actions of today if they are wrong.
That's true. So my point is, so for me, we're still engaging the police. We're still engaging the police. They've said what they need to say. Because even if you look at our application, we're going to be holding a very COVID compliant protest. So we're going to be, exercising and social distancing and all of that. So we are obeying the protocols of COVID. So, but as we're still dealing with the police, I'm not going to speak on what's happening at the moment, but we're still engaging them.
So I just want clarity: is the demonstration happening or not?
So as it stands right now, we are still engaging the police.
Okay, so as of now, you don't know if it will happen or not.
As of now, we are still engaging the police.
So you're not certain if it will happen?
The police will be happening on Sunday. Today is Wednesday. We still have time to communicate. Okay. And we'll be back on all your platforms to communicate the way forward.
Thank you so much. We are grateful for your time. Felicity Nelson is part of the initiators for the Fix the Country campaign.
It's very important I make a point before we go.
Okay, please. 10 seconds, please. Let me the time.
Yeah, let me tell you, I never was disrespectful to him.
Yes, I actually mentioned that. I don't think you said that because I was listening keenly and I didn't hear that. So, but thank you, Dr. Kobi Mensah. You just saw on your screens and heard. He's a political marketer. He's with the University of Ghana Business School. He joined us for this conversation, as well as Dr. Richard Asante-Yeboah. He's now a doctor. Please put some respect on the name when you see him. Richard, congratulations once again for your doctorate there. He's a Deputy Communications Director for the governing New Patriotic Party. They were my guests today on Opposing Views. My name is Kwabena Chenchaini Boateng. As usual, I'm very grateful that you took time off to watch us and to pick some nuggets from whatever it is we shared with you here. You are the jury. Whether or not we have to fix the country ourselves or the political parties, it's up to you. You decide who runs the country for God knows how long. And so at this point, I'll have to take leave of you. But I cannot leave without bringing back to you that very popular sound clip by Vice President Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia. Many thanks for watching.
My company, Gov't, we have embarked upon a technology and have developed a company called Gov't Refrigeration. Because of the Montreal Protocol, which banned certain refrigerants like Freon, R22, R134, the chemical that was used traditionally in cooling your buildings, your cars, is banned. So many of the developers of refrigerants are now scrambling to come up with environmentally friendly refrigerants. My company, Gov't, we have developed a refrigerant that will meet Montreal standards, but our refrigerant is the only one in the world that when you take the old refrigerant out and put ours in, because of the chemical makeup of our refrigerant, it will reduce your energy cost by 40%. So I presented this to the African Union because our intent is to change the refrigerant in all government buildings throughout Africa. With a 40% reduction, that is money that can be used in other areas like dealing with COVID-19 or with working